This is a file with the project for the second part of episode 79, and if you're wondering where I got it from, you need to like the video first. Finally, some official information about the second part of episode 79 has appeared. As many of you know, Mr. Boom has not been active on the internet for the past few days, and in today's video, we learned the reason why, and even more. We found out why Dafuk Boom was not online, and we also learned what stage the episode is currently at. But that's not all. Remember G-Man's appearance in episode 77? At that moment, there were high hopes for him. Many expected his return to be a real breakthrough, a vivid demonstration of power and a decisive influence on the course of events. However, in fact, his return did not live up to viewers' expectations. While waiting for the new episode, I delved so deeply into the plot of the series that I assumed that the Duchess was actually G-Man's daughter. At the moment, we are still waiting for the second part of the 79th episode, and most likely, you have already come across various fan-made videos. In most of these fan works, about 80% of the time, Titan Speakerman appears. He is portrayed as a powerful character with an impressive arsenal and a bright, well-thought-out design. In these versions, he easily destroys his enemies and looks truly dominant. However, I suggest thinking about this. What if Titan Speakerman is indeed shown in the second part of episode 79, but not quite as he is portrayed in fan interpretations? Moreover, I believe that his appearance may not be combat-related at all. There is a possibility that he will be weakened or even defeated. Why did I come to this conclusion? And what facts or details might indicate such a turn of events? We will now examine this in detail. But before we move on to the analysis, I would like to ask you to support this video with a like and a subscription to the channel. Now let's begin. First, I would like to note that the animations created for us by fan makers are, to put it mildly, far from reality. In fact, they have a plot for a maximum of 1 or 2 episodes at their disposal, while Dafuk Boom has a clear, well-thought-out storyline that he cannot violate. He cannot afford to show all the key and significant characters in one episode. Yes, it might look impressive and even epic, but in that case, the viewer simply won't be able to concentrate. Their eyes will be distracted by the excess of action and significant events. Needless to say, even the first part of the 79th episode was so intense and epic that I personally had to rewatch it several times to notice and comprehend all the important details. In addition, it is important to approach what is happening from a logical point of view. For example, as we remember, G-Man was seriously injured and very weakened after the battle that took place in episode 73. Therefore, the fact that we already see him in action in episode 77, that is, only 4 episodes later, can be considered a fairly quick recovery, and that's not bad, to say the least, especially considering that previously, Titans and other characters could take dozens of episodes to recover. However, it is worth making an important clarification here. Previously, new episodes were released every 3 to 4 days, and sometimes even more frequently, so the feeling of recovery time was somewhat different. At the current pace of episode releases, this point can be partially omitted. Now let's move on to Titan Speakerman. Like G-Man, he suffered critical damage in episode 73. However, his full repair essentially began only in episode 74. And while G-Man had special containers with him that ensured quick recovery, the same cannot be said about Titan Speakerman. We don't even have reliable information about the location of their base. We don't know what technologies or resources may be in reserve there, and which of them are available for Speakerman's recovery. As for the question of why scientists primarily spent resources on upgrading minor armada fighters, such as Speaker Woman, Speaker Striders, and others, instead of focusing on Titan Speakerman, who would seem to be the logical priority, I can explain it this way. I won't dwell on the fact that Dafuk is doing this deliberately to maintain intrigue and fuel the audience's interest. I think this is obvious to anyone who has been following the project for a long time. Instead, I will try to look at the situation from the point of view of logic and reality within the plot itself. Think about it. It was much more profitable and strategically wise for the scientists scientists to first improve the smaller fighters from the Armada. After all, nothing prevents them from holding back the onslaught of the Astro Toilets with a crowd, and perhaps at that moment, they were not afraid of the enemy, knowing that they had strong allies behind them. For example, G-Man with the G-Squad, as well as probably a mysterious secret weapon that is about to enter the battle. In addition, we must not forget about the presence of their own semi-Titan, which in the 78th episode demonstrated very advanced technology and decent combat experience. As for Titan Speakerman himself, his restoration and modernization require much more attention and caution. It is necessary to take into account all the past mistakes and shortcomings made during previous improvements. After all, despite his status, Titan Speakerman currently remains objectively the weakest of all the Titans. For example, his most vulnerable point is his susceptibility to infection, which we have already seen twice. Scientists must develop a method that will permanently eliminate this threat. It is also necessary to pay special attention to his armor and weapons. In this regard, it would be logical to experiment with Astro Toilet technologies and try to integrate some of them into the body of Titan Speakerman, thereby enhancing his capabilities on the battlefield. Thus, a consistent strategy, first to strengthen the mass troops, and then to focus on the complex and multi-stage modernization of the key fighter, seems quite logical and justified. And so we have smoothly come to the most important topic of this video, the question of what exactly Titan Speakerman will look like and when he will finally appear. Personally, I assume that his long-awaited return will not happen before the 80th episode. Most likely, he will appear either at the end of episode 79, as was the case with Titan TV Man, when we were shown his main screen for just a second, thereby intriguing us, or Titan Speakerman will not be shown in episode 79 at all, and Dafook will decide to postpone his debut to a later date. This move is completely in line with Dafook Boom's style, as he often keeps the intrigue going until the very last moment. But even if Titan Speakerman does appear, it is not a fact that he will immediately appear before us in his final, fully upgraded form. It is quite possible that he will gradually strengthen himself in the process of movement and combat operations, similar to how G-Man did. Most likely, the scientists understand that they simply do not have time for a long and complete modernization. Therefore, they will carry out a basic reconstruction, restore damaged parts of the body, and add primary weapons. But the most interesting and unique elements of his arsenal will most likely be introduced as events unfold. Thus, Dafook will not only be able to stretch out the character's development, but also maintain the tension and interest of the audience over several episodes. What is obvious is that the Speakerman Titan will have a similar Astro Toilet reel, because we have already seen this in the Armada, which means that the Titan will also have this technology. It seems to me that the main events will unfold around the confrontation between G-Man and the Duchess, and perhaps it is in this line that we will finally learn some important details that will explain a lot. Recently, there has been a growing theory in the fan community that the Duchess may be G-Man's daughter. This version is actively discussed, but to date, we have no direct evidence that could confirm or definitively refute this theory. This means that there is room for doubt and further speculation. However, it is quite possible that Dafook has been hinting at this connection for a long time in previous episodes. He has repeatedly claimed that throughout the series, viewers have missed many key details that could shed light on hidden storylines. And if this is indeed the case, then the conflict between father and daughter would be one of the most emotionally charged and dramatic twists in the history of the project. After all, they are not really strangers to each other, and such a clash would take on deep meaning and symbolism. However, even if this theory is not confirmed, there is still one more storyline that Dafook simply must reveal in the second part of the 79th episode, or at the very least, in a full episode. We are talking about the conversation between G-Man and UFO Toilet, which took place back in episode 60. Something extremely important was said then, which started the conflict, but the true meaning of these words remained unclear. And if Dafook decides to return to this scene and reveal its meaning, we can expect a powerful plot twist, considering that the 80th episode is coming soon, and as we know, episodes ending in 0 usually lead to the most unexpected outcomes. As for the official information about the second part of episode 79, Dafook Boom asked us, "Do you want to know how long I haven't been working on the episode?" and then stated that he hadn't started working on it for more than 12 days. He then showed a file with the SFM project. Next, YouTuber Ebio asks Defuk if he could say what percentage of the episode is ready. Defuk replied that he hadn't checked and couldn't say for sure. Probably 40%. I'm a super cameraman. See you very soon. Bye, everyone.